Okay, give me a second. Hi, CCV. How's it going, girl? Good. Did we put any sort of announcement on Facebook? Are you talking to me about my mug? What are you talking about? Okay, sounds good. No worries. Things were a little crazy today, so I totally see how things could get totally mixed up. Hi, Monica. Hope you're doing well. Hi, Melanie. Good to see you here. Let me just put this on Facebook as well. Hold on one second. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me just get this on Facebook. I have to be honest with you guys. I wasn't feeling well yesterday, so I didn't know if I was going to do this or not, but I decided to do it. That's why I didn't have a lot of announcements on. Um, but I'm here, and I'm happy that I'm here. And let's see if I can get this on Facebook situated. Just give me one second. I wanted to invite one of my clients that I was just on the phone with because she wanted to hear about this. I'll have to do it another time. Yeah, it's crazy. How's everyone doing with the pandemic and everything? Hopefully well. Have my tea here. This is my number one dad and superhero mug. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm getting a little bit tired of the pandemic, but I think, and the quarantining, but I think since things are opening up soon, it'll be good to actually venture out. I live in Montreal, Canada, and so it is cold, very cold, 5 months out of the year. Um, so I am excited to be out with my family. Thank you, Mel. So yeah. Uh, Hold on one second. Got it. So excited for tonight's tea time. Thank you. Tooting my own horn. We are still quarantined a little bit. Things are opening up here in Canada in phases. And so I honestly think that we'll probably be opened up in June. So we're still quarantining. And to be honest with you, I think it all kind of caught up with me yesterday. I was so super worn out, and being home with 3 kids is a lot on an everyday basis. Plus, trying to run your own business or do the work that you need to do, it's a lot. So I think it all caught up with me yesterday. But like I was saying before, I'm feeling much better, and yeah, that's why I'm here to talk about the list. Dun dun dun. Okay, so let's get started. I wanted to talk about the list because I think that every woman has it at one point in their lives or another, whether they made it in high school or as a younger girl or even mentally in their head as they're dating. I think that oftentimes we're not super clear on the list and what it should be in this specific chapter in your life. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that today because I think the list can trip you up if it's not fully serving you. And unfortunately, a lot of women don't continuously review that list on an annual basis, right? Let me know, have you been thinking about your list? And if so, do you have it written down? Do you have it in your head? How does the list look like for you? Is it something that you're constantly reviewing? Are you super clear on it? Let me know how you guys are and what's going on with you as it pertains to your list. Sometimes the Instagram live gets a little bit weird. You can also check me out on the Facebook group too. I don't think it freezes as much there. Sorry about that. I'm still trying to figure out why that's the case. But yeah, so I was just talking about your list, what's on your list. Is it a mental list? Do you have it written down about the guy that you're looking for, how you're dating, who the one is for you? While I'm waiting on those, uh, Yeah, there's a link, Sincere put a link to the Facebook. That seems to be working a little bit better. Sorry about that, guys. While we're thinking about our list, I think it's important to realize that if you are not regularly reviewing this list, then you're operating from a list of when you were probably a teenager. And that's probably not serving you as a grown-ass woman right now. And so it is important that you continuously review that list and potentially make changes so that list actually helps you and doesn't hinder you in terms of you actually finding your guy or the love that you want in your life right now. For example, you might still have a list that serves you before you even had children, right? And so that list might not be applicable to the woman you are now, and if you are a mother, what that means for you now, right? And how the one will relate to your children at this age and older. So that's just an example of that. I wanted to talk a little bit also about what is exactly on the list, right? So can you all kind of just give me examples of things that are potentially on your list when you're thinking about your dream boat, your your one, as they say, just so that I get a sense of what's on the list. Does he have to be a certain height? Does he have to have a certain job? Does he need to make a certain amount of money? Does he have to be religious or not? Or I'm interested to know exactly what's on your list so that I can get a good sense of where you all are at, and then we can talk a little bit more about that list. And then I have a small exercise that we can all kind of do together to get a sense of what sort of list you should have. Oops. Yeah, my Instagram just went down, unfortunately. Oops. That happens. So tell me about your lists. I want to hear about them. Can you guys see me, hear me? We definitely are going to be talking a little bit about the list and what is exactly on your list that is okay, got it. So I'm seeing, people who want to travel, family, person. I'm seeing educated. I'm seeing someone who is responsible as it relates to substances, sober, those kinds of things. What other things are on your list? Hi, Mandy. Good to see you. Well, oftentimes I'll just continue, and when you guys can talk a little bit about what's on your list, we'll continue with that. Hey, Lisa, we're just talking a little bit about kind of who's on your list of your guy, and we'll go from there. I'm seeing sincere, honest, self-aware, done the internal work. Okay, not many guys have done the internal work, but we'll talk about that. Okay, so we have a pretty good list going on that I've seen from various people. One of the things that I want to mention about your list, okay, I see here woke. One of the things that I want to talk about when it comes to having a list for your ideal guy or the man of your dreams is that oftentimes your list hinders love versus actually brings it in, right? So oftentimes I'll be working with clients. Again, these are clients that are smart, strong, successful women. And they'll tell me things like, you know, I want a guy that's 6 feet tall. I want a guy that has a master's degree. I want a guy who makes 6 figures and above, right? These are just, you know, specific things that, you know, people might have on their list beyond kind of characteristics and things like that. And one of the things that I want to mention is that when you have a list like this, it's actually very, very difficult to find someone that's going to hit every single thing on your list, right? Oftentimes, lots of women will have 20 plus things on their list, if not more, right? And if you actually do the math, when it comes to figuring out someone who is, let's say, 6 feet tall, which is, you know, 15% of all men, master's degree, which is 9% of all men, 6 figures, which is, let's say, 12% of all men, and that's just 3 specific variables. You're looking at 1% or less of the entire population of men that are out there. And so it is very important that when you're thinking about your list, you're going to have to realize that there is not going to be a man that is going to hit every single thing on your list. If you have a list of 20, if you have a man that hits 13 of them, great. And I know that sounds like so pessimistic, but I'm here to be 100% real with you. A lot of those things might not matter as much as you think. Even, you know, done the internal work. A lot of people haven't done the internal work, right? Not everybody is woke, right? We want to be thinking about the things that are going to really serve you in your life today, right? And so it's important that, you know, I hear a lot of clients say, "Oh, it's so hard to find a man," and they're basing that based on the list that they're having, where that list and the variables that they have is not necessarily the important things that are going to sustain a long-term relationship or marriage. And so I want to really think about, I want everyone to think about really what their list is and how it is either serving them or not serving them, helping them find someone or not. The things that I think are very important in a long-lasting relationship, and this is going to be different for everyone, but I do think that there has to be some sort of openness, right? You have to be able to compromise, honesty, right? Telling the truth. A man that is caring, that will do things for you, be thinking about you, be considerate, and that a man that is kind, right? I always think of the acronym HOCK, H-O-C-K, honest, open, caring, and kind, as like the foundations for you know, successful and long-term relationships. So what I want to do really quickly is I want to talk a little bit through some of the exercises that I do with my clients that help them gain clarity on what they're really looking for. So what I usually do is I create 4 columns. In the first column, I write down all of their initial, let's say, 20 things on their initial list. And so we've kind of gone through that a little bit already, and you can do this mentally or write it down, whatever you feel most comfortable with. The second column has to do with the positive things that you loved or enjoyed about any of your ex relationships, ex-husbands, ex-boyfriends, ex-situationships, whatever it may be, right? I want like your top 3 to 5 things that you really enjoyed, right? Maybe this guy was like a cheater, but at the same time, he was, he made me feel, he gave me a lot of gifts, and that's my love language, and I really enjoyed that, right? So, one of the things you could say is gift giving, right? Again, I'm not saying that your exes are great, but really analyzing each and every ex that you may have and thinking about those things that attracted you to them and that made you feel amazing and that drew you to them, right? So, and it can be as simple as the guy was really hot, right? That's another thing, right? It doesn't have to be like these deep, spiritual things, right? It can be, characteristics, traits that you find to be, that drew you to your exes in one way or another. So that's what I want you to put in your second column. Like 3 to 5 of those. In the third column, what I want you to do is I want you to, and this might be difficult to do, but in the third column, I want you to think about your relationship with your parents. And I want you to think about the things that you have always yearned for as it relates to your parents, right? Either your mother or your father or both. So for me, my father actually abandoned me when I was a young boy. And so for me, someone who was reliable, who was always there, was something that was really important to me and something that I needed and I yearned for, right? So if something like that is for you as it relates to your parents, please write that down in your third column. So for me, it would be like reliability. In terms of my mother, one thing that I yearn for her is like attention, right? Because she's someone who loves everyone and gives her attention and energy to a lot of different people. And so sometimes I didn't necessarily feel like I had the attention of my mother that I wanted. So I needed to have someone that gave me the attention that I needed in my relationship. So I want you to think of your 3 to 5 things as it relates to your parents. And if it takes you a little bit longer to think about these things, these are fine, right? I mean, this work is not easy work. It's not supposed to be. But this work is going to be beneficial and critical to really thinking about who should be with you and who are the people or the men in your life that are going to help you grow as an individual. So in the first column, we have your initial list that you have of the 20 things. Like I said before, if there is a man that checks off 13 of those 20 things, great, right? And then I want you to also, in the second column, I want you to think about the positive things, the 3 to 5 positive things that one or all of your exes, had that you really enjoyed in a relationship. The third column is all about the things that you needed from your mother and your father that you didn't necessarily have a lot of. So what you'll notice is that in your second and your third column, those are the things that are probably going to be the most important things in the way that you are thinking about your list, okay? if any of you don't mind, please share kind of some of the things that you realize that you might be wanting to have on your list that wasn't necessarily on your list before, or something that you found to be in addition to your list. Okay, so while people are doing that, the fourth column that I like to do is for this exercise is also like 10 to 20 things about why it might be difficult to be in a relationship with you. Now I know that that's like super like counterintuitive, but I do this because it's important to realize that we're all not perfect and that someone is going to have to deal with all of us in a relationship. And so oftentimes when I'm working with my smart and successful clients, many of them have like a perfectionist thing, and that they're always working on themselves and they always have to be perfect. And you know, some of them don't go into the dating game because they are always working on themselves and they have to be perfect. And when they are in the dating game, what happens oftentimes is that they are looking for perfection in their partner. And it's unfair to look for perfection in a partner when you're not perfect yourself. And so this exercise, this last column, is to remind you that you're not a walk in the park and that everyone has their own ish that they're dealing with. And I don't mean that in a negative way. The exercise is really here to open your mind a little bit and say, hey, it seems like, you know, this guy is checking off so many things on my list. Maybe the fact that he makes 80K versus 100K is not a big deal. Or maybe he's losing a little bit of his hair, but he's amazing with children and he makes me feel comfortable and safe. Maybe it's okay that he has a little bit of a belly, but he makes me laugh so much, right? That's how I want this. This is how I want you to start thinking about potential mates out there, because, you know, anytime that you are dating and let's say you're 35 plus, most of the people that are dating have a past and they have things that they've grown up with and things that they're dealing with as well. And so if they're not perfect, if you're going to look for someone that's perfect, you're going to be looking forever. You're not perfect, but if we can learn how to accept people for who they are, men in this instance, you'll be able to see men open up in a faster way so that you can really get to know them in a more intimate way, and emotionally, I mean. Oftentimes what happens is that women will be going, let's talk a little bit about dating, right? So you'll go on a first date and you'll say, you know, you might have had a good conversation with them online and you're like, okay, I'll just go out on a date with this guy. And then what you'll notice is that, you know, the first date has a few nerves in it. It's maybe a little bit awkward because you don't know them, or it's going well. It kind of really doesn't matter. Oftentimes what will happen is women will do one of two things. They'll either say, oh my God, I'm going to marry this guy, or I didn't have a spark with this guy. He was, eh. Is that the case for many of you all? Please let me know, because that often is the case. So it's either one extreme or the other. And I will just say this. If you are one of those women that goes on the first date and says, "Oh my God, this is the one. I'm gonna marry him." I'm gonna need you to slow your roll, okay? And I say that because if you've been doing this, I know that that's probably a pattern for you. And if that's a pattern and you're not with the one right now, it means that the way that you're assessing these men is not correct. So we have to be assessing them in a completely different way. If you're saying, I don't really know about him, if you're so-so about a guy, you're not negative or you're not overly positive, I want to encourage you to go on another date with him. And the reason that I say this is because most of the time, guys are really nervous on their dates. And they probably won't really let themselves be truly known until date 3. And so oftentimes when I'm working with my clients and they're like, "Oh, the date was okay. I mean, he was okay." I'm always encouraging them to go on another date. Not because I want to waste their time, but because I want them to get to know that guy better. Oftentimes what happens is that that guy, because he's feeling more confident and he's on a second date, lets himself get to be known more. And oftentimes that person is a really engaging, attractive person. So, but that won't happen unless you're focused on thinking about your list in a different way, right? If you're thinking of your list in when you're thinking about it as your original list, you might just write a guy off really easily without truly either giving him another chance or walking him down the aisle and you guys have just had one dinner together, right? So, I want to make sure that that's how we're thinking about dating as it relates to your list, and that you're giving men much more of a chance and being more open-minded to the men that you actually start talking to, right? Remember, think of the acronym HOCK, H-O-C-K, honest, open, caring, and kind. I think that if you think about it in those terms, you will definitely be attracting and talking to men that are really going to be open, not just open to long-term relationships, but also the men that are going to be really treating you well. That's really what you should be looking for more than anything else, because you have to start dating as if it were 10 years from now, right? You think about your future self in 10 years. What man do you think that she's going to need so that she's thriving, right? Maybe at that time your kids are a certain age. Maybe your kids are going to be teenagers at that time or whatever. So what kind of man are you looking for right now that is going to help either, help grow you, your family, make you feel safe and secure and all of those kinds of things. Those are the things that I want you to be thinking about, right, when you're starting to date. And that's not to say that there should be a lot of pressure. That is to say that I want you to be thinking about this, not like in the moment, oh my God, this guy is hot and he's giving me butterflies, but let me just sit back and observe who this man is and how he treats me, right? I always talk to my clients and I always say, okay, so the date was okay. What was he doing after the date? Did he make sure that you got home okay safely? Did he reach out to you the next day, right? Those are the things that I want to be analyzing, because those are the things that are going to show if he's open, if he's honest, if he's caring, if he's kind, right? The way that he actually puts himself out there as it pertains to you are going to be more important than a great date or a so-so date. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about how I analyze dates. It's really based on 3 components, right? For me, it's based on attraction, it's based on compatibility, it's based on fun, right? Those are the 3 things that I look at for each date. And I tell my clients that they should be rating them from 0 to 10, right? Now, on average, you should have 15 or more for if you want to go on a second date with a guy. If they, and each one of those variables, compatibility, fun, attractiveness, or attraction, if any of those are below a 5, you definitely should not go out with him again. But if they are 5 and above, you should give them another chance, because compatibility and attraction can grow with time, right? So yeah, that's how I think about the list. That's how I think about dating as it pertains to the list. And that's how I work with my clients to make sure that they're dating with an open mind and an open heart, so that they're thinking about and analyzing guys in the right way, instead of thinking about, oh, this guy is so hot and I have butterflies in my stomach, and I'm not really thinking clearly about whether this guy has potential or not, right? Every man is single until he is in an exclusive relationship. So oftentimes I think I'll just talk about my clients. You know, they'll feel some sort of ownership or possessiveness over a guy, and they're not really in an exclusive relationship. And so I always tell my clients that you're single and he is single until you guys are actually together. And so making sure that you're kind of analyzing each date afterwards will help to remind you that, you know, he doesn't really owe you anything and you don't owe him anything. And that if he's not kind of, you know, up to snuff in terms of the way that you're rating him, then that's okay, right? And you don't need to feel guilty about it. And this vice versa is the same. If he's not feeling it one way or another, it's not a real loss, because like you hear me say in almost every live, 90% of the guys are probably not going to be for you, and that's okay. That's part of the game. It doesn't have anything to do with you personally. It's just that you didn't check the boxes for his specific list, and every person's list is different, and that's okay. Okay, so I've talked a little bit about a list. I'm hoping that this was useful for you in some way, shape, or form. If this was, and you are interested in doing any more of this kind of work to help you gain clarity in the way that you not just date, but also actually create a relationship and heal your heart, then definitely reach out to me either in the DMs, or you can private message me, so that we can start talking about your personal love journey and how I can help you attain your love life goals for the year. Okay? It was great chatting with you. I hope you have a great night. And please stay safe as things start to open up a bit. And I will talk with you next week. Okay? Bye.